The new Galaxy A16 5G is not the cheapest Galaxy up on offer, but it is close. This means it's based on budget-grade hardware, and there were inevitably some compromises to be made, so our task is to discover potential shortcomings or deal breakers and see if the phone is worth getting. Before we get into the review itself, we should make a point that we're reviewing the 5G model, and our review findings may not apply to the regular Galaxy A16 4G model, mainly because it uses a different chipset. Speaking of chipsets, the Galaxy A16 5G itself is in an odd situation and is available with either a Samsung Exynos 1330 or a MediaTek Dimensity 6300, depending on the market. The Galaxy A16 5G comes in a pretty unremarkable two-piece, mostly white cardboard box. To be honest, it is a bit flimsy. Although it did protect the phone well enough during shipping, there's a total absence of plastic, which is nice to see from an ecological point of view. As is the current trend, you don't get much in the way of accessories. The Galaxy A16 5G only comes with a basic passive 3A white USB Type-C to Type-C cable and a SIM ejector tool. There is no charger in the box, nor is there a case. The Galaxy A16 5G is unquestionably a modern Samsung phone. You can spot its distinctive design language a mile away. And when we say distinctive, we're more or less talking about the triple vertical camera arrangement on the back without a unified camera island. Other than that, the A16 5G looks like any other current phone. It has a mostly flat frame with nicely rounded corners that don't dig into your palms. There's nothing aggressive or stark about the design, and the shape here, just nicely flowing natural lines. Despite being plastic, it still feels very solid. In fact, there's no flex to the phone's frame, nor is there any hollowness. You can get the Galaxy A16 5G in one of four colors: blue black, light gray, gold, or light green. In our opinion, the blue-black unit errs more on the side of black than blue. The back of the phone is made of plastic, and so is the middle frame. The front of the Galaxy A16 5G is made of some sort of glass. Unfortunately, Samsung doesn't specify what kind. In terms of ingress protection, the Galaxy A16 5G gets an IP54 rating, which is fairly basic. At the front, the bezels are fairly wide, and the teardrop selfie camera notch also screams budget. The earpiece is nicely hidden away. There are no visible sensors here either. To be fair, Samsung has seemingly slimmed down the display bezels compared to the likes of the Galaxy A15 4G and 5G, as well as the Galaxy A25. The A16 5G uses a virtual proximity sensor, but it has a physical ambient light sensor tucked under the display. The Galaxy A16 5G has a 6.7-inch Super AMO LED panel. It has a standard FHD+ resolution of 1080 into 2340 pixels and a 19.5 to 9 aspect ratio. It advertises 800 nits of whole display brightness for the Galaxy A16, reaching up to 824 nits. The A16 5G has a 90 Hz refresh rate. That's basic by today's standards, but we still appreciate anything over 60. It lacks any display HDR support, but on a more positive note, the A16 5G has the highest possible Widevine L1 DRM certification, allowing streaming services like Netflix to offer up full HD streams. It's got a 5000 mAh battery, which is pretty standard nowadays. We expect a pretty solid battery life from the A16 5G. The Galaxy A16 5G supports Samsung's PD-based fast charging up to 25 watt. Hence, it should charge at a pretty familiar rate, and indeed, it does charge at a pace practically identical to the Galaxy A15. It has a single bottom-firing speaker at its disposal. There is no stereo setup here, not even a hybrid one. The A16 5G was very good in our loudness testing, mostly thanks to its high-pitched sounds. As its name suggests, the Galaxy A16 5G is a 5G device. It supports SA or NSA Sub-6 connectivity. It comes in either a single SIM variant with a dedicated micro SD slot or a dual nano SIM model with a hybrid second slot that can take a SIM or a micro SD card. There is no eSIM support. There is a GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, BDS, and QZSS support for location. Local connectivity is handled by dual-band Wi-Fi AC and Bluetooth 5.3 with LE support. There is NFC, but it's market dependent. There's no FM radio or a 3.5mm audio jack. It boots Android 15 with Samsung's latest One UI 6.1 software layer on top. In case you were wondering, Samsung's Galaxy AI isn't present on the A16 5G. It's still relegated mostly to flagship devices. Some of the notable One UI 6 novelties include a redesigned quick panel, better notification visualization, an improved and simplified camera app, and more powerful gallery and editing tools. For memory, the Galaxy A16 5G comes with either 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, or 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. Storage is expandable via a micro SD SD card. It's also got what we would call a pretty basic triple camera setup. The main camera is a 50-megapixel unit without any bells and whistles. Then you get a pretty low-res 5-megapixel selfie and a supplementary 2-megapixel macro cam. The 5-megapixel ultra-wide is based on a fairly obscure SmartSense SC501 sensor. The Galaxy A16 5G unit will set you back around €220 for the base 128 and 4GB RAM variant. The phone isn't universally available yet and seems to be a bit hard to find from reputable sources. For about as much as the Galaxy A16 5G, you can currently get yourself a Galaxy A25. And not the base 128 4GB RAM version either. You can get the much more future-proof 128 6GB RAM one. Of course, there's always the option to go cheaper and save a few bucks with last year's Galaxy A15 5G as well. It's very similar to the A16 5G through and through. The Galaxy A16 5G is a nicely constructed device covering most bases. However, it seems to be behind the times in more ways than one. Samsung isn't just packing in that budget value like many other competitors. For example, the phone's only IP54 rated, it lacks stereo speakers, and its display, while not bad in any way, only has a 90Hz refresh rate and pretty modest maximum brightness. We all know that old saying, there are no bad products, just bad pricing. While there is room for nuance in such a broad statement, we feel that it perfectly describes the Galaxy A16 5G in its current state.